explaining the precise wording. When we say in aroch lecho ba'olam hazeh, what is the emphasis ba'olam hazeh? In aroch lecho in general. Anything, even olam hatzilus, we're saying is in aroch lecho. The mention of olam hazeh is not to say that olam hazeh in aroch, but above olam hazeh there is aroch. But the point in that is that ba'olam hazeh, the principle of in aroch becomes evident. This is when we first recognize that in aroch lecho. And the reason for that is because in olam hazeh we encounter Gashmi. Gashmi is an entity that denies any source, which means that it is not an entity that is traceable to a source, to a higher place, to a higher level. Therefore, it means that Gashmius came to be in a manner what's called ein aroch, not in a gradual manner in Ilviyol, but ein aroch, in a total non-traceable gap from the source to the creature. Okay, so now we'll insert 2 lines from the end of the top section on page Zayin. Ve'al kein, and this is why, ba'olam hazeh dafka, exclusively in olam hazeh, novin, this is where we get to understand eich she'ha'olam hayeser elyon, the principle of the olam hayeser elyon, of the most highest world, gam kein ein aroch, that the highest world is also ein aroch. Where do we become cognizant of this and understanding that the highest world is also ein aroch? We first begin to understand it when we examine and we experience olam hazeh, because olam hazeh clearly is an entity that does not point to a source. Olam hazeh is a derivative of olam, of the higher world. Therefore, this reveals to us the principle that the highest world is also ein aroch. What makes us say that therefore that this is also ein aroch? Sharei hu gam kein olam, since that the highest world is also a world. Hu gam kein olam. This is what we discussed way back on the previous page. And they do it gam kein olam, world carries a certain implication. The implication of world is that it is not self-made. It is something that needs to be made. It doesn't have an inherent presence, a fundamental presence. So therefore, we see that in olam hazeh we see that olam is be'ein aroch to the source. Therefore, any olam, when we go back to a higher world, which is higher than Gashmiyus, but this teaches us, the Gashmic world teaches us that world per se, it reveals us that world per se is ein aroch, is a non-entity relative to its source. V'his havusay, and thus its coming to be, he b'bchinas yesh me'ayin, is in a manner of yesh me'ayin, a yesh from non-being. Let us discuss now at this point the term yesh may ayin. It would seem to us the opposite, that yesh is more of a true being than ayin. Ayin is ayin, ayin is absence. But once we understand the principle of world, and we say, hey, world is not a reality in and of itself. It's something that came into being. The principle of yesh is a statement that it is present because it exists because of its yeshus, because of the message of the, so to speak, of the imprint that it makes by its presence. It is not present by virtue of its own truth. It is present by virtue of the impact that it has. This is yesh. Ayin is a presence that is in an absolute sense. It's present because of the truth of its presence, of its existence, not because of the impact that it makes. This is a principle that we discussed all the time. Pointing out that knowing something by touch is knowing something by its impact. Knowing something by sight is knowing something by the truth of its presence. It's a completely different knowledge. It's a completely different reality of the object that we know. And this is that is yesh miyai. This is a yesh, which means it is present by virtue of its impact. Ayin is present not by its virtue of its impact. V'nimtza, and thus it comes out as a result of our experience and our awareness and understanding of Olam Hazeh. It comes out the Olam Ha'atzilus, that this highest world, that is completely a godly world, Gam Kein Be'ein Aroch, that also is Be'ein Aroch, is also out of proximity to Ein Sof. V'oid yoser, and even more. Oid yoser means even more, which means that Olam Ha'atzilus is even further out from the Ein Sof than the Olam Hazeh is out.
Olam Ha'atzilus is further out than this world is out. Okay.
The implication, this Oid Yoser, the Kuli, it doesn't elaborate, was meant Oid Yoser, and even more. For one thing, in Olam Hazeh, you can tell that it's an aroch. In Olam Ha'atzilus, you can't even tell. So where is the in of ein aroch? Where is in the truth obvious? In Olam Hazeh, the truth is more obvious than in Olam Ha'atzilus. All right, let's do the kitzer.
Oid yoser is going on which world?
Olam Ha'atzilus.
Are we saying that the incompatibility of Atzilus relative to Ein Sof is even a bigger chiddush than the way we see this Gashmius coming into being?
Yes. Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that the higher worlds are primarily focused on their awareness, of understanding. Olam Hazeh is not focused on understanding. Olam Hazeh is a statement of being that I'm a created entity. And therefore, in Olam Hazeh, the Alter Rebbe says, this is where the intent of the Creator is first surfacing, more than in the higher worlds. Because this is where you recognize the Creator more than in the higher worlds. Although, in terms of their appreciation and understanding, in the Shalei B'Yerech.
But we say nonetheless, Olam Atzilus is Od Yoser in this non-proximity.
Right. Because there, this truth is not even obvious. It becomes obvious through Olam Hazeh. Bir ho'inyan, let's learn the kitzur. Bir ho'inyan. Yine Atzilus hu bechinas gili ha'helam. Atzilus is only revealing that which was previously concealed, which means she'ein is chatzus dover, that it means that it is not a total novelty. It reveals that which is contained earlier in Kesser. But yet still, Atzilus be'ei. I know the second ein aroch. Ein aroch l'gabe hamatzi. Ein aroch l'gabe hamatzi. Atzilus is be'ein aroch l'gabe hamatzi. V'yoyser mi she'ein aroch asil l'gabe atzilus. Atzilus, relative to the matzil, is even further of a greater gap than asiya relative to atzilus. Shezehu rak elin v'tachte. Asiya, relative to Atzilus, is only a distance of a higher and a lower. She'atacht nimtzu kol b'ha'elyin, where the lower is to be found contained in the higher, in a higher state, but it's never contained there. V'lochein, and therefore, gam bitul hatachtoin, the beetle of the lower, einoi beetle gamri, is not a total beetle, which means that the tachte, its absence, if it were not to be created, would not be a total absence. His beetle is only that it loses its original state of being, but its source and its concept remains. The ein aroch hu, but the concept of ein aroch is she'ein nimtzu kol b'im koyre, that it is ein aroch means it is not to be found in its source at all. V'zehu ein aroch l'chol b'olam hazeh, and this is what we say, that b'olam hazeh ein aroch l'chol. Because here, at this point in Olam Hazeh, it becomes obvious the inyan from ein aroch. Because where do you see an entity that is not traceable to a source, that you see in Olam Hazeh? And thus, from Olam Hazeh, we come to understand that this is also true in worlds overall, in all worlds, that worlds legabe atzmus legabe ein soif is bein aroch. Where without olam hazeh, that would not be that obvious.
So, ein aroch olam hazeh is what is apparent to us, quote unquote apparent.
Yeah.
In Atzilus, it is the truth of it. The very truth of it is, in fact, a greater
Gap.
yes.
Because world relative to lecha, to atzmus, ein soif, is totally bein aroch.
Lecha, what does the word lecha mean?
Lecha means to atzmus. But we are saying it b'olam hazeh. The reason we say it in olam hazeh is it's a principle in general that in davening you cannot say things which you do not experience. Where do we experience? Where do we actually come to experience and recognize the union from Ein aroch? That is an olam hazeh. Because Gashmius is such an entity that defies any source. Which means that this source, Motzei Rishon, creates Gashmis in a manner that it is totally remote from it. Yesh Ayin.
The meaning of V'lechen gam bitul tachton eino bitul gamre. Is that to say?
Because this bittul tachton legabe cholim, not legabe atzmus. Tachton relative to a higher world, or to the highest world.
Saying its ability to mavatal itself, or if it Elyon did stop.
If Elyon would stop
highest?
giving its highest,
Yeah.
he would not be totally absent.
Okay, and the reason
Because
this
it's
is saying
contained in the Elyon.
has something that bypasses the. Saying that if Atzilus stopped giving chayas to the Bia, it would remain because it
would remain within
continue to
Atzilus.
draw.
It would remain within Atzilus.
Remain within Atzilus. But what's that mean? If Atzilus stopped giving chayas and kiyum to
Olam hazeh,
yeah, then what?
but the principle of the world would still remain in its source, in Atzilus.
Principle of this world would remain. Oh, but saying it has a principle that is
Because
rooted
its source in its source in the higher world. Which is in Ilu v'Yolu, right? That's like in Seichel there is koyach asiyah. So if you're not acting, the action is still present.
If you're not
principle.
acting, the
If you took the
potential.
dining room table away from the dining room, it would still be there.
You would still be there, right?
Saying the action would be there, it would be there in potential.
It would be there in reality, in concept. Potential is only when you want to follow through on the concept. The real reality is in the concept. And we always point out, this is, it sounds like, again, like counterintuitive. This is extremely true and extremely important. Because this is The fact that you have it in the concept, this is what enables you to relate to it on the practical level.
So this Gam Bitul Tafton would be not that the concept got Navato, but that the actuality got.
Oh, that's it.
So therefore it would still remain.
Because the concept is present in its source. So if it's not actualized, it's still there.
By that token, why is it so true that it's Be'ein aroch, that Gashmius is Be'ein aroch to Ruchnius? In other words,
No, not to go from Gashmius in Ayin aroch l'cho. L'cho means atzil.
but that which is becoming revealed in Olam Hazeh is because we see that Gashmius, there's no source, we can't identify a source for Gashmius. But we're just saying now that the concept, like the dining room, is the source for the dining room table, even though Gashmius and a concept do not correlate
Because
at
in
all.
Gashmius, the Indian that there is a concept, you see it on a higher level, not on a Gashmius.
Also from the perspective of Gashmius.
If you're in Gashmius, it's the Gashmi itself. Okay. This is the question that was asked a couple of weeks ago in class, and now the Rebbe asks the same question. He must have eavesdropped.
The student in class must have eavesdropped on what the Rebbe was saying.
Ach, eine Muvon. However, eine Muvon. There is something left to be understood. Since that Atzilus, the reason it's called Atzilus is because it has the quality of that's implied by the word Otzalti, which means an emanation. And the principle of Otzalti is Shezehu Gilui HaHelam. The Atzalti means Gilui HaHelam, revealing something that is previously concealed. It says by Moshe Rabbeinu, this is the classic presentation of Chassidus, that Moshe Rabbeinu had to bestow upon the Zikanim the ability to provide for the people, for the Jewish people. But all provisions have to come from Moshe. So then Hashem said to Moshe that you will gather in this gathering near the Mishkan, and I will draw an emanation from you upon and place it upon this king. Which means that this is something which is what was placed upon this kingdom, that which earlier existed in Moshe Rabbeinu. And it's only a draw from Moshe Rabbeinu. And that is the principle of Atzilus, Gilui HaHelam, revealing that which is earlier concealed. Concealed because it's on a higher level, not because it's concealed, hidden behind a wall. Harei, and thus it means, Ein ze hischatshus, that this in Atzilus, therefore, is not a hischatshus. It means that it is not a novelty. Because Atzilus means that it's an emanation of that which was there earlier. Only an emanation, a draw from it. Ukmei shekosov hamarech has been in Atzilus. As he writes in this Sefer Amarechas, this is a Kabbalah Sefer, being in Atzilus and describing Atzilus, Shelein is chadesh dovor b'matzil v'netzel. That when that Atzilus, the principle of Atzilus is that nothing was anew created, both in the Matzil or the Netzel. In the Matzil means in the source, in the emanator, and Netzel means that to where it is emanated, to where it is bestowed. Rak only. שנסגר לכוח הקומוס והחוסום מכוח על הפועל. The koyach hakomus, the contained, komus means hidden inside, contained koyach, v'hachosum, that's sealed off, that you can't tell at all externally of its presence. And this koyach, the way it is contained and in such a sealed off manner, became nisgala, became obvious and evidence, and surfaced mikoyach el hapoyach, from a state of koyach, from a state of potential el hapoyel to the actual. This is the inyan for Atzilus. Therefore, we have the question: Ve'eich yitz the kushneihem? How can both of these things be correct together? On the one hand, that Atzilus is yesh me'ayin, and it is a yesh me'ayin. Its proximity to its source is even of a greater distance than olam hazeh from Atzilus. And at the same time, we say that Atzilus itself is only his galus ma'koyach ha'peh, that it was previously contained, and this is just a gilui, v'atzalti, emanation from above. How can both of these statements be correct? However, the principle in this is the following. It is known that Atzilus hu memutza, that Atzilus is an intermediary bein oirins of hamatzil el hanivroi, between the oirin soif, who is the matzil, who is the original source, el hanivroim, to the creatures. Then they put in parentheses, Ayin asher kosev l'kamon perek kufsamach perek kufsamach. You can peek further down, in quite a distance away from here, in this same hemshech, to see more explanation of this, which in Mitzvah we will get to. You're not to be that anxious.
Paltiel, what is it?
Hakomus means that it's contained internally. Chosom means sealed off. There's a seal on top of it that you can't even tell anything.
That's what a maitel, but then Atzilus means.
Atzilus means the relation of koyach hakomus v'achos.
So therefore, it's not a mamish real hiskashus.
All right. So this is going to be in Mitzvah a very significant revelation. Atzilus, we said that the Atzilus is implying two opposite principles. One principle is that it actually was contained, it's revealing that which was previously contained, existed. And the other is that it's all totally yesh me'ayin. And the answer to that dilemma is that Atzilus is a memutz. A memutza means an intermediary. And what is it intermediating? Mediating. Oirin Sof Hamatzil El HaNivroim. Let us just focus in on just on this principle. Oirin Sof Hamatzil El HaNivroim. Nothing can exist, no matter how further, how insignificant. Nothing can exist but by drawing from the source of all sources. Obeying so. This initial, this absolute truth that is beyond identity, what's called motzudisha, has to be the source for everything that exists. But that source is totally without definition. How can a finite and a definitive entity come from that source? And you said, and yesh means it has an impact. That source is not impact based. Therefore, how can from that non-impact based entity, element, truth, come something which is completely impact based?
Sorry, what does it mean, impact based?
Impact based means that it is there by virtue of you recognizing it. Is that clear to you? Okay. V'yodua. So Atzilus is the memutza. It provides for that transition. V'yodua, it is known, the principle. Cho memutza, that any memutza tzorich liyis kolul must be in containing mibeis hamadreges, must be composed of both madreges, of the two madreges that it brings together. V'imkein, and therefore, yesh ba'atzilus mibchinas eines hamatzil. Therefore, in Atzilus, there has to be present of that Bechina, which is Oyin Sof HaMatzil, which is Oyin Sof itself Matzil, which is not a created entity. V'gam B'chinas HaNivroyim, and at the same time, it has also something which is akin to Nivroyim. And this is because Atzilus contains both the Matzil element and the Nivroyim element. This is why it is able to join the two and bring forth from the Matzil into Nivroyim. All right, so we'll have to interrupt. The principle in this we already discussed many times, that the principle of Atzilus is like I say, it's like Chokhmah. And the similar thing is in sight, where what you are recognizing in Chokhmah is not what you are detecting, not what your experience, but by virtue of what the truth is. how the truth is in and of itself. This is why Atzilus is beetle based. In order to receive that which is higher than itself, it receives it by virtue of the fact that it doesn't demand to fully comprehend what it is. It receives what is there. And for further elaboration, there'll be a mitzvah tomorrow. Okay? Have a great day.
You too.